first event we've had since February of 2020. It's really exciting to see all of you guys in person again. We're really excited to continue to grow this group and continue forward. But for those of you guys who just came for the first time, we started this group back in early of 2019 to be essentially a networking opportunity for people to learn about different real estate opportunities in town. And it's slowly growing from there. We've been doing a lot of online stuff since the pandemic started. And now this is our first actual real estate meetup group since the pandemic. We're really excited to host Jacob, who actually became pretty much the first event, or like the second event. So he's been around forever, and he's grown aggressively over the last year or two in his wholesaling business, and he's learned a ton and done a lot of cool stuff. So we thought it'd be great for him to come out and kind of talk a little bit about what he's been able to do over the last couple of years. So, Luke, you have anything?
All right. Yeah, thanks, Raphael. And everybody out there, I know I haven't had a chance to say hi to everybody in person, but hi. Thanks for coming. Hey. No, we really, I mean, I don't know about you, but especially me, I'm excited that we're all getting to meet in person again, and it feels great. Got all those, good feelings going on. Anyways, but yeah, Jacob, so I think it was 2 years ago, Jacob messaged me on Bigger Pockets, and or I don't remember where it was. We were messaging back and forth somehow, and I was giving them some tips. Honestly, they were pretty crappy tips, but he was listening to me, and within a couple months, I was very impressed with how fast he kind of used my crappy tips to figure out actually how to do what I was trying to tell him to do, and he was figuring it out. And one of the things I think those of you in the business can relate to is that you're going to make lots of mistakes in the business, and I know Jacob is not afraid to make mistakes. He makes a lot of them just like the rest of us, and that's what it takes, I feel like, sometimes to learn something new and to become successful. So I'm happy that we have him up here because he hasn't been doing it very long, but he's done a lot of cool stuff. So we were trying to think of somebody to have come speak, when we were getting back into this, and the in-person meetings, and I couldn't think of anybody better because it's so motivational to hear somebody that's so young and new to become successful so quickly. And I think more than anything, what I missed about meeting in person was the motivation. I don't know about you, but I didn't do very much for the past year. Not nearly as much as I should. And I think part of that was because I wasn't meeting up with people that were doing more than me to push me to do more stuff. So hopefully I get motivated in this meeting, Jacob, so you better help me with that. I just want everybody to know, though, Jacob apparently flew in from D.C. to come here tonight, so everybody needs to thank him for coming in. I had no idea that he was gone. Look at that hair. I know, looking good, man, looking good. But anyways, I think where were we starting on our questions tonight? We were going to ask him about where he started, right? All right. So, Jacob, first question in the hot seat is, tell us your story. Where'd you come from? Where'd you start?
So basically, when I started wholesaling real estate, I wasn't really doing too much of anything. I think I was 20 at the time. I was working a factory job for like $10 an hour. Worked like little jobs with my dad, being a contractor, other stuff, and it just, I don't know. I didn't really ever like it. Like I probably lasted like 2 months in every job I ever worked, and then I ended up quitting or something. And I always knew I wanted to get into business, but I was never sure what I wanted to do. My dad ran a contracting business for a while. He used to have like 14, 15 people who worked for him, but I hated doing contractor work. I was like, I will not pick up a hammer. I refuse to. I'm not picking up a hammer. I'm not picking up a paintbrush or anything. And then one day I was just meaninglessly scrolling on Instagram and YouTube, and I saw something about driving for dollars. I'm like, oh, this looks cool. Let me see what this is about. I'm like, all right, sounds pretty easy. You find a house that needs work and you get in touch with the owner and you buy it. But I'm like, I got like $3,000 in my bank account. How am I going to buy a house? And then I came across Max Maxwell's page and he's talking about wholesaling, and then I just dug myself in a rabbit hole for 3 months and did a whole bunch of studying and research, and then started trying to do wholesaling real estate. I actually started July 14th, 2019, so it'll be 2 years exactly in about 3 months. He's got the next one.
Oh, for sure.
We're gonna see
and that's right around the time you started coming to the meetup too. Because I remember when I first met you, it was pretty awesome to see that. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. So why do you get into wholesaling? Why wholesaling? Obviously, there's flipping, there's buying whole, and whatever else. So what was the reasoning behind wholesaling? I'm sure Maxwell was a big reason for that, but let's elaborate it.
While I was 20, my credit score was a 560, and I had about $3,000 in my bank account. So I really didn't have much of a choice but to get into wholesaling.
Oh, for sure.
All right. Fair enough, man. Fair enough. So I similarly, I guess I'll relate to you there. I was doing some research after I quit my job, and I was trying to figure out how to make more money. I was doing the buy and hold thing, but I was like, okay. And I came across wholesale. I'm like, oh, that stuff's really cool, you know. And then I realized it's a lot of work. It's really hard. It's a lot more work than just holding buy and hold real estate. I'll be honest. So my question to you is, when you started, what were some of the biggest challenges that you had to face, figure out, overcome? What was something that sticks out in your mind as being like really making you work?
I would say beginning off, it was knowledge and capital, because I really didn't feel comfortable like giving somebody an offer or something like that unless I knew it was like for sure a deal. I didn't talk to like 7 buyers about it and be like, hey, is this a deal? Is this right? Just because like I didn't want to try to go into contract with the seller and then look bad by not going through with it and then things like that. So really the confidence part of it, not being able to do that, I took as much action as I could, but it was still like, I would get to the final steps and I'd be like, wait, is this even a deal? I'm like, am I doing this right? What am I doing? So then I had to call people I knew like Hampton and Luke and Rob. I'm like, Rob, can you run these comps for me? I'm like, I think it's worth 180, but I'm not sure. And so that was one of the things. And then knowledge, not because like I wasn't trying to expand my knowledge, but I was just getting started. So just an example, like the second wholesale deal I ever did, I came across this seller. She was like, I don't even know if I own the house anymore. She's like, I think the bank foreclosed on it. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm gonna do to help you, but I'm gonna figure something out and get back to you. So they were probably the two things that kind of shook me a little bit whenever I first got started. But I mean, over time it got better just by trying to learn as much as possible and surround myself around a lot of people.
Yeah, I think what a big factor there is that you took the action and then learned along the way. Because any time you start something new, it's going to be difficult. I mean, when Luke and I first started the meetup, for example, it was kind of awkward, not being in front of people, and then over time it slowly grows and expands. And that same logic applies to what Jake did too. So it's pretty awesome. So when you were first getting started, what were some of the things that you did early on to help you scale your business?
So early on, I would say the first 4 or 5 months, I really didn't scale at all. I was just kind of like a one-man team. But what really helped me to be able to scale and build a team and everything is getting a mentor that was doing the same thing that I was doing. It's great to surround yourself around everybody that's doing good, but for example, if you're a buy and hold guy, you might not want to get advice from a wholesaler on how to scale your buy and hold portfolio. If you're a flipper, you might not want to talk to a buy and hold guy about how to scale flipping. Both people are going to be very knowledgeable, but it's not the model that you want. You can still get the information from them because all the exit strategies in real estate are great. But what you're trying to do from the get-go, I would suggest finding somebody who's really good in the niche that you are in and reaching out to them and gaining the knowledge that they have. Because first starting out, it was like, okay, I know how to do all this by myself, but I don't know how to hire a team. I don't know how to manage my costs. I don't know how to manage my time. I don't know how to do this task very well. Like when I first got started, I didn't know how to operate a Google Sheet. Like a lot of the stuff was just new to me. So finding somebody who's just good at what you are in your niche is really one of the most helpful things.
And I think with that, so he's obviously used a lot of people that are local investors, and I think also I would say you probably use people that are not local investors as well. And I know one thing that I've struggled with, and many of you might in the past, is with, you know, finding those people, and then sometimes it costs money. You got to spend some money, right? So how much money would you say you spent there to get a mentor, to get educated? I know I heard earlier today that he took Frank's class, so I'll give a shout out to Frank's class. Anybody that's looking for a class, Frank, I don't know if you've got a class coming up, but the fact that Frank gives a class locally to people and he doesn't charge $30,000 like some of these traveling people, it's like way, way, way cheaper than that, I think is awesome. And so Jacob took that class, and he took it because he's trying to learn, right? And so how much money would you say we've spent over the years educating yourself?
So just a little less under 2 years. I think it's a little over 40 grand in education. And it wasn't all at once. It was maybe $100 a week for this mentor, and then $5,000 for this mastermind, $8,000 here, $10,000 here. So literally a lot of, when I first started, I literally like lived off of as little as I could and just invested everything back into education and the business as possible because I knew it was going to pay off. So just a few people I've got mentoring for. Tyler Austin, he's out of state. Frank Miller's class was amazing for fix and flips. I think it was like $8,800 or something. It was basically something that you can take and you're going to 10x your money in a year. Easily, if you take action. Like, Frank provides like bus rides, like in-person meetups all the time, Zoom meetings and everything for like a course of like 6 months. Most mentors that you get, at least in the wholesaling game, they will literally charge you like $10,000 to get like a viewer access to a Google Drive. So that's another thing, is being very particular in who your mentors are. And you don't always necessarily have to pay somebody to be a mentor, you just have to provide value. Like, for example, me and Hampton have done many deals together. Hampton's helped me out along the way. And I've never like been like, hey, Hampton, here's $5,000 for mentorship, but I've brought him deals that have both made us both money. So it's really just about providing value to people, whether it's money, time, resources, deals, whatever you can do to provide value to. Don't ever go to a mentor and be like, hey, can I pick your brain and take you out to lunch? It's great that you do that, but the people you're asking that are mentoring, they probably have enough money to buy their own lunch. So just provide value to somebody, and that's really the best advice I can give for finding a mentor.
That's great advice, man, really. So what are some of the challenges you face as you start to scale? So you've already, maybe you said 5 months in, 6 months into your solo operation. Now you get to a point where you're starting to need some help. Like, what are some of the challenges you face along that journey?
I love this question. I would say the biggest challenges I face starting off is like within the first 6 months, thinking I'm going to be like a Fortune 500 company and just try to hire everybody underneath the sun to do, and just like think I'm going to be like the biggest wholesaling company in the country in 3 months. It does not work that way. Be as conservative as possible with your capital that you do earn, and try to figure out the best and smartest way to do things. I literally probably scaled to like 10 cold callers, like acquisitions and everything, and like, yeah, cool, you make 80 grand a month, but if you're only taking home 20 grand, is it really worth it managing a big team like that? It's, at the end of the day, it's net profit over gross profit. So I would say scale healthy, make smart decisions, and don't jump into it too quickly. And then another thing is marketing. Your marketing, in the wholesaling business, if you can't market, you don't have a wholesaling business. That is literally all a wholesaling business is marketing and sales. If you can't market, you can't do sales, or have somebody who can do either or, you don't have a business.
All right, so talk to us about your business a little bit currently. What types of systems do you have in place, and how do you market to sellers currently? What does that look like?
So for marketing, we do cold calling, text messages, and then I'm trying to start a door knocking company. It's a little hard trying to find people for it, but it's one of my things is to try to start a door knocking company. And then try to just niche down as much as possible. So, for example, if you're in the Louisville market, I would not try to wholesale houses that are $500,000 to $1 million. That is not the normal price range for this market. You need to find out what works for your market and is good for you so that you can go out and find the deals that your buyers want. If you get a deal that's a great deal but no end buyers want it because it doesn't make sense for them, it only makes sense for a homeowner, you're wasting your time. So you need to find out what works in your market, what works for you, and do that, because there's some people who do direct mail, they do great at it. I did direct mail when I first started and almost had to go get a job. So it just depends on what works for you.
Sure. So can you elaborate a little bit on that marketing strategy? Because like you said, there's some people who do a lot of direct mail, and I know people who send like thousands of mailers a month, and obviously there's the cold calling aspect. What have been the most effective strategies for you from a marketing perspective? Or
I would say cold calling has brought in 65% of my revenue, and that's just because it's a lot easier if you can get on the phone with somebody and figure out, do you want to sell or not? And that's all my cold callers do is like, all right, do you want to sell? What condition is the house in? How much do you want? All right, cool. My sales guy is going to get in touch with you and do that because they're more qualified to actually talk to that person about that. So I would say starting off or even scaling, just finding, don't do a wide approach, do a more targeted approach towards certain things. So that's driving for dollars, or like maybe pre-foreclosures, or people who have taxes. Literally just like, if you got like a list of 2,000 people, get in touch with all 2,000 of them people until they give you a yes or no. Don't just like, oh, I've only got in touch with 100 people out of these 2,000. Let me go try to find 20,000 more people, or the magic list. Everybody thinks there's a magic list out there for wholesaling. There is not a magic list. The best list is the list that you work with consistency.
I hear you there. So when I tried to wholesale, that's kind of how it went. I had a big list. I got in touch with a few people on it, and I was like, "Where's the next list?" Doesn't work out well. I love that advice, man. So one of the things that I've always been concerned with, and this is me learning through talking to you, we should learn that the best way to learn is to take action. And I'm not always the best at that sometimes. In certain things I am. But what do you do to make sure your team, the people that cold call for you and your acquisition specialist, how do you hold them accountable to make sure that they're moving your business forward in the right direction?
All right, so this one took me a while. It takes you a while at first because if you're hiring people, you're gonna have a lot of people who go behind your back, do things, so you have to set the right systems up, the processes. So anybody who works for my company, they have to log into a time tracking software that tracks their screenshots on their computer so that you can see, all right, are they actually working or are they just watching YouTube videos? And then you have to have weekly or even starting out 2 to 3 meetings a week to where you're like, okay, and you need to have organized meetings. You can't just have a meeting that's just all over the place. You need to systemize your meetings out. You need to treat your real estate business like an actual corporate business. These are the things that, we're going over on the meetings. How many calls did you make? How many leads did you bring in? What are we doing wrong as a company that you think we can improve on? And have a set KPI for everybody to where they enter their own KPIs at the end of the day, and really just try to motivate your team more than anything and uplift them more than anything, because I'm always, with my team, I'm always like, you got this. I'm like, come on, you can do better than this. I'm always trying to uplift them. I'm very hard on them, but I wouldn't say I'm mean to them. I'm very hard on them and very strict, and I'm like, I know you can do better. Let's do this. Come on, and just try to motivate them to do better and bring out the potential in themselves. And another thing that's helped out a lot with my business is every week we will go over business goals and personal goals, and we will all hold each other accountable for them, for the personal goals and everything as well, because we have to realize is if you're hiring people, everybody that you hire, they're not just a statistic or a number, they are a person just like you are. Everybody has their own life, their own family, their own things that they want to do, their own inspirations, their own dreams that they want to live out just like you do, and you have to be able to respect that and to be able to help them out with that. And things like that. Like if somebody comes to me and they're like, hey Jacob, I want to do this, I don't know how much longer I can work here, I'm like, great. Just give me the respect to help me find somebody for your position before you leave, and just show equal respect to everybody in the company, no matter if they're a manager or a co-owner.
It's very nice. Servant leadership, like you were saying. That's awesome. Because again, you are working for your team, right? You're the one who is inspiring them, you're the one pushing forward, and each, like you said, each and every one of your team members has a goal, so that's awesome. Really. So can you walk us through a day in the life of Jacob and Michael? I know it's obviously always changing, but if you kind of give us an idea of what you do.
So my daily routine is not always the same every day. I'm working really hard to do it, but I'm in the process of moving, so it kind of juggles everything around. But typically, a day, I wake up around 5:30 or 6, which is early enough for me. I don't want to be one of them guys that wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning. 5:30 to 6 is good for me. I'll get up, I'll go to the gym, I'll work out for an hour, hour and a half. Then I'll come home and then I'll read for 20, 30 minutes. And I'm not perfect, this doesn't always happen like this every day, but read for 20, 30 minutes. Get on my team meetings on Mondays and Fridays if I have them. If it's Tuesdays through Thursdays, I'm trying to do tasks that I need to do. And then, check up on everything, make sure everything's going right, check up on my sales team. My sales team is the number one team I check up on most of the time. The other teams, I kind of have a manager for that. So check up on them, make sure I have any tasks to do, and then really, that's about it. I don't really have too much structure throughout my day, just 9 to 5. I'm trying to do as much as I can. And I typically work 4 to 6 hours a day. But what I try to do is I'll work for 2 hours and I'll try to intensely work for 2 hours. And then I might take an hour or two to go eat or do whatever I want to do, because that's the point of having a business, is to be able to live the life that you want to live. And Rob Bergeron can speak on this perfectly. Sometimes I'm like, Rob, has anybody looked at my house yet? And I'm like, I need to read that 4-hour work week just like Rob. But anyway, everybody's in here to have a business to suit their lifestyle. So I feel like that's one of the most important things. I was working 8 to 10 hours a day. I had an office with Hampton, and I was like, oh my God. I'm like, I don't want to feel like I have to show up to work every day. I'm like, Hampton, I'm sorry, but I got to get rid of this office. I'm like, I'm going virtual. So really just, that's it as far as a set structure. And advice is, you can't really do that when you first start out. When you first start out, you got to go as hard as you can until you can get systems in place with people that work for you and stuff like that. And then even then, you still have to put the work in.
And when you first start out, you gotta close some deals, right? So I'm a buy and hold investor mainly. I like to think about the future. What is 5 to 10 years in your business in the future? What does that look like to you?
I love this. We actually went over this, and I actually did this. It was crazy because I did this 2 days before we went over this in Frank Miller's class. When he was asking everybody, he's like, what are your all's goals and everything? So my 5-year goal, which I'm thinking about it kind of now, and it's only been 3 months. I'm like, this is kind of a small goal, but my 5-year goal is $250,000 net profit a month, not gross profit, but what I get to take home to myself. Net profit, 100 doors minimum, which I think that's kind of small-minded now. 100 doors, 7 streams of income, to be able to have lake houses wherever I want, beach houses, and to really just be able to live life on my terms and to be able to do what I want, whenever I want, however I want to. And that's really it. I wish I had my goals thing set out in front of me. I'd be able to take each one. But that's it. Another one was 800 credit score, to have $3 to $5 million in credit lines. One of the things that I've been wanting to do recently is developments, as far as new builds and stuff like that, and then branch out to commercial developments and things of that nature. So that's kind of my 5-year goals. I honestly haven't set out a 10-year goal. Let's say 10-year goal is to be able to retire if I want.
You don't need your probably around $250,000.
Might be a little off.
Might be a little low for that. Awesome. So, obviously you provide a ton of inspiration and information for everyone. So, what would you recommend as far as, people who are looking to get started in the business? What are some of the best resources? And then, if you could go back and kind of impart some wisdom on someone who's just getting started, maybe you can isolate maybe a few bullet points that they should keep track of.
Yeah, so as far as when you're first getting started, something that I can recommend is to, whatever you do, just try to do it with as much integrity and good intentions as possible, because it's easy to get mixed up and think about the money, but if your business is not ethical and doing this and that, then it's not going to be able to grow and it's not going to have a good name. Referrals are the best type of business anywhere. And I'm not saying I'm the best at everything. Like, I've messed up a lot. Probably did some things I probably shouldn't have during business, or handled some situations the wrong way. But as long as you're every day trying to be ethical and do the right things and help people out, you're going to succeed. You get paid for your value, not for your time. So that's the number one advice I can give people starting out. And then also network with as many people as possible. During COVID, it's a little hard. Like, I feel like I've had withdrawals from not seeing people. It's been crazy. But try to network with as many people as possible and surround yourself with as many people as possible that are doing good. And that's it really, because there's some people in Korea, there's just a book of knowledge and they're just willing to help anybody. So that's like very valuable. Like, the knowledge that you can get inside these rooms, you might have to go pay $20,000 to some guru on Instagram or something like that. So just take advantage of the resources they have locally. And the internet literally has almost anything you need on it. Just be resourceful. Literally, like, my team asks me questions and I'm like, did you ask Google? Like, that's my response to everything. Like, did you ask Google? I'm like, he's a lot smarter than I am.
You know that program, let me Google that for you? There's this program, but let me Google that for you, and it'll what it is like a video that you can type something in and you send it to someone, and it shows the cursor going to Google and typing it in. So my boss would send it to me if I asked a stupid question, and they would like search it for me. So that's
Nice. Well, I think what we all can learn from Jacob is take action and talk to lots of people. I think those are two of the most important things in real estate that you can do. I know my personal situation was I got into real estate and I didn't network with anybody for like 6 years. And when I started networking with people, I started getting a lot better. So we appreciate everybody coming out. We're going to open it up to questions, I think, from people from the crowd. If you have any questions for Jacob, we'd be happy to have you ask that at this time. And hopefully you got some good stuff. I know that I'm going to do some stuff a little differently. So thanks, Jacob. Who's got questions? What do we got?